And we're back with more News Talk Saga 960. So very glad you could join us to wrap up your work week right here with us on the Mark Petronas Show. Well, Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, can you call him the artist formerly known as Kanye? I don't know. I do believe that Mr. West does not appreciate being called Kanye anymore, which is cool. But Ye was on Alex Jones' show on InfoWars along with Nick Fuentes, and they basically blew up the internet because some of the things that Ye has been saying are frankly pretty far out there, to the point where he's being attacked once again for saying things that are out and out anti-Semitic. Other things that he has been talking about are having some positive thoughts about Hitler, kind of like some of the things they used to say about Mussolini. He made the trains run on time. What more do you want? But it's certainly the kind of stuff that tends to shake up the status quo. And that's why we love having Daniel Bordman on the show. He is a content producer. He's a writer. He's a journalist with the National Telegraph. And it's I'm glad that you're able to come on and talk a little bit about this. But let's hear first off, before I get your thoughts, Daniel, a little bit of this interview. Let's listen.
You're not a Nazi. You don't deserve to be called that and demonized.
Well, I see good things about Hitler also. I love everyone, and Jewish people are not going to tell me you can love us, and you can love what we're doing to you with the contracts, and you can love what we're pushing with the pornography. But this guy that invented highways, invented the very microphone that I use as a musician.
Wow.
You can't say out loud that this person ever did anything good. And I'm done with that. I'm done with the classifications. Every human being has something of value that they brought to the table, especially Hitler.
Okay, he said, just that last thing, very interesting, especially Hitler. Listen.
To the table, especially Hitler.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, like the phraseology you'd be looking for there is even Hitler, right? But especially Hitler is someone whose value kind of shows where his head's at here. And I mean, there's a lot to dissect there. Like, first of all, no, Hitler did not invent highways. Hitler did not invent the microphone. He is conflating things. The fact that, yeah, Hitler built some autobahns when he came to power. And you know what? If you're an autocrat and you seize the money of a certain percentage of the population and you use that money to build an infrastructure project and you slam it through, then yeah, you got some trains or some roads. Okay, he made roads. He's not the first. He didn't invent roads. He didn't invent highways. And he's conflating the thing with Hitler inventing the microphone with, the thing that the first radio broadcast that would be heard by aliens would be Hitler rambling about whatever during the Olympics in the 1930s. All right. Now, going back, it's pretty clear that where his head is at, like, I love everyone, which is something I just hate this nonsense. Pre-Kanye, and not to do with the Nazis and Kanye and all that, but he's like, and then you can love, I'm supposed to love what the Jews are doing to me with the contracts and with the pornography. One, okay. I had no part in negotiating Kanye's contract. And are there skeezy people in the entertainment industry? Of course there are. This is a known fact. However, Kanye himself is a billionaire. So I don't think Kanye has been so screwed over by these contracts as he's saying. And there are also allegations he started his own record label. And there's multiple artists that have said that Kanye has screwed them out of deals. So maybe, let's hold it. And like with the Jews pushing pornography, I see a lot of projection here. He did marry Kim Kardashian, who herself got famous by putting out her own sex tape that no Jews were involved in. So this is a man who married someone whose rise to fame started with a self-produced porn tape. So let's pump the brakes on the holier than thou stuff, Kanye. And I will say, I will not say the phrase "ye." I don't believe artists changing their name to something stupid like "ye" is like a 22-year-old blue.
Wait a minute, no, okay. I mean, would you have called Ali, or would you say no? I'm not. I'm calling you Cassius Clay.
No, that's different.
I don't give a damn.
That was a religious thing. No, that's him doing a religious thing. I get it. You've converted to like if you're going to convert to Islam and like my name is like Shaheed Mubarak, fine, okay.
Yusuf,
But
whatever.
like,
Yeah, I mean, like Cat Stevens, right? I mean, you can
yeah,
refuse
Cat
to call
Stevens,
Cat.
go there. But like if you're just like, no, my name is now Yi, or my name is Purple, or my name is like Rainforest, like no, this is a 20-year-old girl telling you she's non-binary. We can't allow this to be part of our daily lives. Your name's Kanye. I don't care. I'm not going
All
down
right.
this. Like someone changes his name to Yi, I'm gonna have to learn a new name in 2 years anyway. So
All right, let's listen to this where he says, enough of this dissing of Nazis. Let's listen.
I've said it, the most Nazi-like activities I've seen, and the Nazis, in my view, were thugs that shook people down, did a lot of really bad things.
But they did good things too. We're gonna stop dissing the Nazis all the time.
Okay, we're gonna get to that.
When Alex Jones is the most recent,
Nazis have feelings too, Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, like this is again. So I'll go back to the point I want to make the "I love everyone" comment. I hate this nonsense. I really do, and I want to use the phrase "hate" to contrast the love, so I seem like the bad guy. But this devalues the concept of love. Like I don't doubt that Kanye loves his children. I don't, right? Or that we all do. But you cannot love 7 billion people. And to say you love everyone cheapens the claim that you love anyone, right? Love is a feeling that is, over 2 standard deviations above the mean of how you feel about a regular person, to put it in math terms, right? Once you apply that to everyone, it's a nonsensical term. And it is a 10-year-old's level of thinking to think they're deep. It is, a 13-year-old girl writes this in her diary to think that she's, cracked the code of moral philosophy, that she loves everyone, and why doesn't everyone just love everyone? It's nonsensical thinking. It's and it just shows that like Kanye's like not in the right state of mind to talk about anything and to defend Kanye. So Kanye gets the rap for being crazy because he's legitimately a crazy person. I don't mean he has bipolar disorder. I mean that he lives in the same planet of someone like Vladimir Putin, where they're no longer human beings. And this is a planet where no one says no to you ever, for decades. No one has said no to Kanye for decades, just like no one said no to Vladimir Putin for different reasons. But it's still not a world that human beings should ever live in. Like you don't become once you spend a decade and no one.
I need you to educate me on something, okay? Because Yi has attacked Zionists. Can you attack Zionists without necessarily being labeled anti-Semitic? I can distinctly remember Vanessa Redgrave years ago when tensions between Arabs and Jews were particularly high, referring to Zionist hoodlums. Is Yi able to do that, talk about the Jewish media without necessarily being labeled anti-Semitic? Because he would tell you that he's not anti-Semitic. He doesn't hate the Jewish people. He just hates certain people who may be associated with the Jewish race. Can you navigate through that for me?
Okay, so
help me through that minefield.
I totally listen. There are some Jewish people that I hate, right? That I despise George Soros. Now George Soros is an anti-Zionist, but that's aside from the point. Kanye's problem is not with Zionism. Kanye cannot define Zionism. Zionism is the belief that the Jewish people have the right to self-determination in their ancestral homeland. It doesn't preclude anyone else from living in Israel or being under full rights. Basically, the belief that Israel should be allowed to exist is Zionism. So that's not what Yi's problem is. Yi goes on with the contracts and this pornography conspiracy and blah, 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 blah. This is so when Kanye talks about the Jewish Zionists, on his drink the 3-hour interview he did, he was saying it was the Zionist Jews are the reason why Kim Kardashian and Pete Davidson are tweeting about having sex near the fireplace. This is not Zionism. This has nothing to do with the establishment of the state of Israel. The fact that your ex-wife is having sex with someone beside the fireplace. This is not a valid critique of Zionism. So if Kanye was saying, hey, my problems are with Zionism and it's a general and he doesn't believe he's a crazy libertarian and doesn't believe in any countries. He says, I don't believe in a Zionist state. I don't believe in a Palestinian state. I don't believe in America. I don't believe in Canada. I believe in total open borders for the world. and this push towards nationalism is what's causing all our problems. And I go, okay, yeah, then he legitimately has a problem with the philosophical concept of Zionism, and it's not anti-Semitic because it applies to everyone, right? Now, if the only nation state you have a problem with is the state of Israel, and you're fine with every other nation state existing, you don't want to disestablish the Chinese state because of the CCP. You don't think we should, overthrow the Islamic Republic of Iran then it's probably not an issue with Zionism. It's probably the Jews. So Kanye can have a problem with specific Jews, just like I do. And I don't mind him saying, hey, I've had specific Jewish people screw me over in contracts before. It's probably true. Like, there's Jews that exist in Los Angeles in the music industry, and I guarantee you there's been a lot of Jews who screwed him over, and there's been a lot of Jews who probably had his back and tried to help him, but he probably, from judging in his state of mind, he probably wasn't able to listen to anyone. So there is a thing where you can say, yeah, okay, his personal trainer, who happened to be Jewish, who tried to have him committed. This guy seems like a jerk. Something Pasternak. Like, this guy seems like a bad person, and a nefarious actor in not just his life, but you see him in the lives of other celebrities. You go, I have questions about this guy. Fair enough. Like, I'll hear you out there. But he doesn't specify which specific Jewish people have screwed him over. He's like, no, the Jews.
Well, he specifies the Jewish-owned media. So he's, in his mind, the media is run by Jewish people who are trying to screw him over, who are bad-mouthing him and are trying to destroy him.
I mean,
that's what my understanding of it. That's what I've been able to extrapolate from.
Yeah. There's Jews who've made it into the media, but like the media isn't like Jewish owned, or like, and also like the Jews that tend to dominate, or not the Jews that tend to rise highest in media of the Western countries tend to be, the anti-Zionist left-wing ones, the ones who are, less pro-Israel and all this, which is just my point to say that if your criticism is the Zionist media, well, the Zionist
like
media,
Harvey Weinstein, that type.
Well, Harvey Weinstein
rising to the to the
Harvey
top
Weinstein
of Hollywood.
I mean, like, Harvey Weinstein has never done anything, Jewish advocacy. He was just making movies, right? And his goal was to sleep with pretty actresses, leveraging his power, right? It's not like, right, so yeah, Harvey Weinstein, put him in jail. Like, he's a sexual predator. We can do this, but like, Kanye's problem is clearly with the Jews as a whole, right? And he doesn't specify which ones. He's very clear that it's a generalization. 14 million Jews I have a problem with. And he, there's 14 and a half, and he's like, maybe there's 10 to 12 that I might be cool with. But he's very clear that his problem with the Jews, and unprompted, he will go on rants about the Jews. This is if you saw him on Tim Pool podcast, he brought Nick Fuentes, who's an outright neo-Nazi, and Milo Yiannopoulos with him to the Tim Pool podcast. And Tim started this. He lasted 20 minutes. Tim said, hey, I know there's been a lot of smoke around you and this and the Jewish thing, but let's not talk about that right now. Let's talk about the dinner you had with Trump. And Kanye goes, okay, the Jews, and goes on a disconnected rant about the Jews for 10 minutes. Tim Pool says, okay, I disagree with the thing, but we can be specific or not. Here's a question not about the Jews. Kanye's response: Jews, 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 they, the Jews. Tim Pool goes, okay, I disagree. And then Kanye walks off. So Kanye's very, 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 very clear. The problem is the Jews to him, and he has more problems with the Jews than he does the Nazis. Like, this is his, this is why I think free speech is good. This is why I don't believe in cancel.
So we got to get there as well, because the use of the Twitter account now to get out his particular message. Here's a tweet by our friend Spencer Fernando. There is nothing subtle about Kanye West's comment. So he refers to him by his quote unquote old name.
Dead name.
He's not challenging the narrative or being provocative. It's outright anti-Semitism. It's hate towards Jewish people. It should be easy for every fair-minded person to call it out and denounce it. My question to you is, should that be shut down? In other words, do you think Kanye should be allowed to say what he is saying? I mean, there are laws against inciting against an identifiable group, but
there's a difference between inciting and like outright propagating hate. So I think what Kanye is doing is not illegal, and And today is a good example of why I think free speech is good, and this is a win for free speech. And it might listen. This is the value. Okay, I don't like what Kanye is saying. I don't like it. I think he is not making the world a better place. I think he is instigating and inspired a lot of hatred. I mean, people have vandalized Jewish cemeteries with the phrase "Kanye was right about the Jews." Okay, that's outright evil. But if we shut him down after his initial comments a month ago, when we first, I think, talked about this, and said he was not allowed to talk and threatened anyone who went to talk to him, and he goes underground, no one hears what he has to say, and people might think, oh, he might have had a legitimate point, right? He is being censored, people are being shut down, all these things are true, right? Then he becomes a martyr for free speech. Instead, give him a couple hours, show him that he goes on Tim Pool, he's given 2 hours of free time, he gets minor pushback against his anti-Semitic rants. He throws a hissy fit and walks out. He comes on Alex Jones. Alex Jones lets him speak. He's chosen his friends. His friend is Nick Fuentes, outright anti-Semite Holocaust denier. Like, it's made his career on that. Then he comes on and he says, we need to, the Nazis did good things. Stop dissing the Nazis. I love Nazis and Jews, but then I'm going to go rant about the Jews and not the Nazis. And everyone needs love, especially Hitler. So we now know what he thinks. Like, because free speech, because we didn't shut him down, because we didn't censor him, we now know that this wasn't like a nuanced point he was making about some Jewish people, and because he said something about,
But and I understand that. But now that you do know, just 1 second here, I just want to introduce you again. Daniel Bordman joining us on Saga 960. Daniel's with the National Telegraph. He's a writer. He's a journalist. He's a commentator, and we love having Daniel on the show. And so who better to talk about this situation? I mean, Ye looks flat out creepy here with this thing over his head. But I want to your point about free speech, and I understand 100%, and I tend to agree with you that if you didn't have free speech, then those types of views would never have come out from this individual, and then we wouldn't have known exactly where he stands. So are we better off knowing where he stands, or are we better off never having been exposed to those views to begin with? That's what I want to ask you. But before we get to that, I want you to think about that. Let's listen a little bit to this.
I love how you brought that in, because now you got God's warriors coming together. Right now, okay, Nick Fuentes doesn't have a Twitter account. Alex Jones doesn't have a Twitter account. But hey, guess what, Elon? I got a Twitter. And today I'm going to have Nick and Alex tweet from my account. You like that, Ari Emanuel?
I'm all about free speech. And the greatest threat is those that want to silence us. This is why it comes First Amendment. Yeah. Anybody trying to take your speech is the enemy.
Absolutely. Well, and it's, I do find it a little bit hypocritical that Elon Musk said that he was purchasing Twitter to create a free speech environment. He says that free speech is the thing that's going to save the West and our civilization. But yet he has taken exception to you, Alex, for some seemingly specific reason, maybe personal to him, but definitely not principled. So I think it's time that the people finally demand a real victory here. We've been at war, essentially, since Trump came down the golden escalator 7 years ago to put America first, to put Christ first, to free the internet and do these kinds of things. And here we are all this time later, and it seems like we've stagnated, or in some ways maybe even taken a step back. So it's time that people demand, we want Christ first, we want America first, we want Alex Jones back on Twitter. These are just and reasonable demands.
Well, I see it like this, and I want you to be able to elaborate on this, but I don't want Ye to get his run, because he's got so much to say and he always gets cut off. But I'm going to try to shut up as much, but we can go 4 or 5 hours if you want, but the main show's actually 4 hours long. I was just hoping for 3. We'll do 4 hours if you guys are up for it. But here's what I'm saying.
Okay. Are you a free speech absolutist? Do you consider yourself
a
guy who says, you know what, let's let it out there? It's some of it may be ugly, some of it may be even hateful. But at the end of the day, it's better to allow those views than to censor them and then open the door to censoring guys like you. you know what I mean? Unfortunately, it's hard to, as soon as you give people the shut off button, then they use it to go after people who are criticizing them and might have hurt their feelings, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, this is a hard thing to like. The line is different when it comes to like, okay, what the government, like when the government gets involved and when there's no government involved. These are two different questions on free speech. So the Twitter thing is also like, okay, this is now a private company, and private companies don't have to platform who they don't want to platform. But this also then comes with the Section 230 thing of, are you a publisher or are you just like a service provider? So Elon's view to keep Alex Jones off of Twitter was he does not like people politicizing dead children, which I think is a pretty good principle. I wholeheartedly agree with Elon on holding that view. I found what Alex Jones did on the Sandy Hook thing repugnant. Now, I don't think it was worth $64 gajillion like the courts did, but it doesn't mean Alex Jones was right. What he did was an act of willful malice towards grieving families. And Nick Fuentes has used platforms to spread open conspiracies that are baseless, Holocaust denial, anti-black, anti-this, anti-that, anti-Semitic, whatever it is. He's used them. So you could say that, yeah, Nick Fuentes is allowed to open a Twitter account, but what he did with it already violated the rules, and he's lost it. So you can say, like I'm not bringing Nick Fuentes on my show for an hour to mouth off on this. Like, I've met the Canada First people, Tyler Russell and his Canadian cronies, and like they're not good people. And the thing I find most offensive about them isn't like the fact that they tried to like openly bully me for being Jewish. It's the fact that they invoke like Jesus in the sense to do it. And I find that a rather repugnant thing and malicious towards the rest of Christianity, where I don't like this Kanye Nick Fuentes thing, where they're, using Christ as a cover for their own malice. I find that a rather perverse and morally warped thing to do. So you have people who are doing this, and the question becomes like, okay, do I believe Kanye should go to jail for anything he said, or Nick Fuentes should be fined? No. They should be allowed to go to cozy.tv and say whatever they want, and the government shouldn't come after them. But does he need a YouTube channel? Like, does YouTube has terms of service? And as long as the terms of service are clear, defined, and the violations are like in line, then I don't have a problem with it. The problem is you have terms of services on these social media sites. You say something that doesn't violate them, and then you get kicked off. Or the terms of service are ridiculous, and it's like equal with denying the Holocaust. Well, actually, you can be the Ayatollah Khomeini and host a cartoon contest to deny the Holocaust, and that's fine. But you can't be Jordan Peterson and say there are two genders, right? Then we have a ridiculous platform. So it's like, I can say a private company, if they come with a clear and reasonable terms of service, right? I can't go on YouTube and, say the N-word 10,000 times and insist on, a racially segregated society. They don't want that stuff on the platform. Fine, that's their company. That's what they have the right to do. Now, I do believe that I should have the right, as long as I'm not outright advocating for a genocide, like I do believe that I have the right to get on YouTube and advocate for a racially segregated society. Would I ever do it? No, it's a horrible idea. But I believe in a society where you have the right to do that. So these are the two principles at play. And like this whole, why isn't Alex Jones allowed on Twitter? Well, Elon Musk bought it, and Elon Musk was, horribly offended by his take on the Sandy Hook thing and said that parents who just lost their kids were crisis actors. Okay, so in Elon's like, that's reason to take away someone's.
He did have an amnesty. I mean, so I'm not sure whether that blanket amnesty applied to Jones or not. I'm a little fuzzy about that. But a lot of people who were off Twitter, all of a sudden were back on Twitter. And my concern is, I know that leftists flooded that platform with all sorts of crap because they wanted people to get outraged and then turn on Elon Musk and say, we knew this was going to happen. And so all of a sudden, Twitter has become this real battlefield. It was a censored space for the longest time. I myself was shadow banned. I know that for a fact. I'd get a whole bunch of people following me, and then all of a sudden they would evaporate out of the blue because somebody didn't like my numbers or algorithms or whatever. And I knew that was going on. I knew my reach wasn't what it should have been. But, so now all that's changed. I think Twitter is way better now. I think it's a hell of a lot more fun. But with that, with great power comes great responsibility. And so for my money, I think you let Twitter run. Although now you got the EU threatening him. We've had talk, although apparently it's wrong, that Apple was going to deplatform its app. And then apparently that it came out, no, that wasn't going to happen. I mean, this is really the battlefield for free speech. I mean, would you agree?
I absolutely agree. And I think it's definitely become a better place. And I do think bringing a lot of people back. And like, if you want to say there's a blanket amnesty, but like, the people who got kicked out, like we can take your account back away. So if Nick Fuentes comes back on and starts, tweeting about the Jews, then they kick him out. Fine. Right. And you just want a fair system left and right, where the Antifa accounts who are openly harassing people and, advocating for violence and coordinating violent attacks on someone like Ben Shapiro or Jordan Peterson, Douglas Murray, well, they also get removed. So as long as it's fair, right? I think that's what people want, is there's very clearly a thumb pushed on the scales in one direction in Twitter last year, right? In 2021, the thumb was on the scale. Like you see it at a lot of major right-wing accounts, their follower base has dramatically increased. Like Ben Shapiro went from 4.3 million to 5.1 million, which means there was clearly something algorithmically against major right-wing figures where they were search banned and all this. So it's sort of like the bigger right-wing figures, now that they could be searched and seen a bit more, they're going to get a lot more followers, which is the way it always worked for left-wing figures on Twitter. So this is good. As long as it's fair. As long as, like, if you want to take the Jewish example, as long as someone like Nick Fuentes is treated as the same way as someone from whatever, PFLP, both of them are saying, here's a Jewish conspiracy, we side with Hitler, and we think there should be less Jews on the planet. Both the PFLP and Nick Fuentes are saying the same things. Now, back in the old Twitter days, only Nick Fuentes gets banned for it. So either neither of them, they both say it and we both get to criticize them, or they both get kicked off. Like, this should be the only standard. Either it's both or zero, but one or the other, it doesn't work that way. So I think as long as the standard is fair, clear, and if it's fair and clear, then I think everyone will be fine with it.
Bottom line, don't shut him down. I heard you say that. Let him air his views and have people weigh in on those views as they feel appropriate. My last question, I want you to weigh in on this. I don't think this really helps our cause. I mean, you look at this stuff from the vantage point of, the typical libertarian, pro-free speech, freedom. I don't think that helps. I think it helps the other side, frankly, because then they get to say, aha, there you go. You see what happens when people get free speech? They go crazy and they put all sorts of material like this out. I think it's counterproductive. What do you think?
Well, I think this is where, like, we have to make a point about sometimes, victories are a bit messy on our side. So I think this is a victory for free speech. And I said it publicly. It's a victory because Kanye was allowed to go out there and give himself context and time to explain his views. Now there's zero ambiguity to say what Kanye thinks. So now it's outright. Anyone still on Kanye's side here it's outright anti-Semitism, right? It's Spencer Fernando said. It's pretty clear. Like, his problem is generally with the Jewish people. He is highly sympathetic towards the Nazis. To the point where he will lie and make up things about the Nazis or Hitler to make them seem better. And this is now what we know. So he shouldn't be in jail. No one's saying this, but because he's been allowed to speak the last month, he's lost more people to his cause, where he might have had a lot of people who might be sympathetic and just think, like, had he been thrown out right away, had he been kicked out after the first anti-Semitic thing he said, then it would have been like, oh, look, Jews do control the media. You can't say anything about the Jewish people. Then you get people kind of saying that. But now that he's been given the time to outright outline his views, well, it's actually pretty clear where he stands. And if you're going to stand with Kanye, it's pretty clear where you stand as well here. So we've actually removed this ambiguity of, oh, he was just talking about a few people and you can't say anything about the Jews. Like, no. Now it's clear. This is outright anti-Semitism, Nazi sympathy. And that's the value of free speech, is we actually know where this is. And I do think there's a lot more people who stand with Kanye today than there were a month ago. And I do think that's a good thing, because you can't eliminate all evil from the world no matter how hard you try. There's no scenario in which you make the perfect utopia. But
I gotta run this past you as well.
oh God, not this lady.
Okay, so Nilly Kaplan Mirth. This is the mask. This is the crazy-eyed
Yeah, this is crazy,
person.
crazy eyes McMasker.
Yeah, she's the one who wants a mask on everybody, I guess.
I
This
thought
is
he was taking
anti-Semitism.
to
It is
China.
directed at me as a trustee and as a physician, but it isn't masks or vaccines. It's simply hate. I'm calling on leaders in Ottawa, Ontario, and Canada to speak out. Who will say enough is enough? Is she calling for censorship? I mean, the government is already on her side. They want to censor the internet. But, I mean, it's pretty vile. You look at it. Happy Hanukkah, you stupid quack, B word. I hope you know you've caused nothing but suffering for Canadians for advocating for pseudoscience like masks and COVID vaccines. You are nothing but a neurotic. I'm not going to say that word. And then it wraps things up with an FU. Okay, so Dr. Kaplan Mirth posted this. So my only question is, yeah, it's vile material. Why amplify it? I mean, why give it? It's like you're rewarding this person for what they wrote to you personally, and presumably private. I mean, this was, as I understand it, directed at me, her personally. What am I missing here? Do you see any value in this?
No, I mean, Nilly Kaplan Mirth is a crazy lady. And she makes me regret. There's no way to excommunicate people from Judaism. There is no excommunication clause, unfortunately. So we're stuck with her. Yeah, this person's being an anti-Semite, saying all this stuff. Now, is anything Nilly Kaplan Mirth said in the last 2 years productive? No, nothing she said. She should be wearing, I mean, she put 15 masks on so we just can't hear her talk, and put masks on her fingers so she can't tweet. This would be my solution to her. I don't like her. I think her conduct is unbecoming of the medical profession. I think she courts a lot of the vitriol that comes her way with her behavior. I think had she been more reasonable and measured, she also attacks anyone and everyone viciously who disagrees with her. So she does not turn the temperature down in the room. And part of the reason why she gets such vitriol in her emails is because she puts vitriol out there in the world. Now, it doesn't excuse this person who clearly went on an anti-Semitic tirade and threat. Like, this is not the emails you should be sending. Like, when you see Nilly Kaplan Mirth on the internet, people, you should make fun of her. She's a cartoon. She's a lunatic. She's a crazy lady.
Well, but she's also a person in authority.
Yes.
And a doctor.
Yeah. Yeah,
so she has a pedestal on which to speak. She has the blowhorn.
And she abuses that power. So this is why I say, like, if Nilly is listening, I'm sure we're her two favorite people. So I can't imagine a world in which she's not listening to Saga right now. I'd say, Nils, tone it down. Okay, you're putting so much vitriol out there in the world. Your conduct is unbecoming of a city councilor or a doctor. And lady,
I'm just thinking. China. It's like somebody put this pile of poo at my doorstep, and I'm going to share it with the world. Here you go.
Yeah, nothing she said.
I understand. She wants to weaponize this stuff as a way to shut everybody else down. Yeah. Anybody who's criticizing her. I mean, to me, that's probably why she did it. Say anybody who criticized me is a, anti-Semitic so-and-so like this individual. Anyway, Daniel, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Daniel Bordman, check out his stellar reporting in the pages of the National Telegraph. Let's take a break. Back with more on Newstalk Saga 960 and the Mark Petrona Show after this.